Chapter 1. A Chill in the Gallery. The click of Olivia Hart's heels echoes through the empty halls of the Hartman Gallery. Dawn's first light filters through the skylights, casting long shadows across polished marble floors. She inhales deeply, savoring the familiar scent of lemon-scented cleaner and aging wood. Olivia's fingers trail along the smooth surface of a nearby sculpture as she makes her rounds. Each piece stands exactly where it should, meticulously arranged to create the perfect flow from one exhibit to the next. Her green eyes narrow, scrutinizing every detail with the precision of a jeweler examining a rare gem. A loose information card catches her attention. Olivia adjusts it, ensuring it sits perfectly level with its neighbors. Satisfaction warms her chest as she steps back, surveying her domain. The order soothes her, a bulwark against the chaos of the outside world. She reaches the impressionist wing, pausing before a vibrant Monet. Sunlight dances across the canvas, bringing the water lilies to life. Olivia's lips curl into a small smile. This, she thinks, is why she does what she does, to preserve these moments of beauty, to share them with the world. The sharp trill of her phone shatters the morning quiet. Olivia frowns, fishing it from her pocket. "Olivia Hart," she answers, voice clipped. "Miss Hart, it's Madeline from Restoration. We've hit a snag with the Fairfield piece." Olivia's brow furrows. "I'll be right there." She strides purposefully towards the Restoration wing, heels striking a staccato rhythm against the floor. The tranquility of moments before evaporates, replaced by a familiar tension coiling between her shoulder blades. Madeline, a petite woman with paint-stained hands, greets her with a harried smile. "Thanks for coming so quickly. We've uncovered some unexpected damage beneath the varnish." Olivia leans in, studying the 19th century landscape. Her trained eye picks out the hairline cracks, spreading like a spiderweb across the canvas. "How bad?" she asks, keeping her voice level. Madeline grimaces. "Worse than we initially thought. The previous restoration job was less than ideal. We'll need to remove all the old work before we can even start." Olivia's mind spirals, calculating timelines and budget implications. She takes a deep breath, centering herself. "Show me your proposed treatment plan." For the next hour, Olivia and Madeline pore over technical details. Olivia's input is precise, balancing the need for authenticity with the realities of modern restoration techniques. "Remember," Olivia says, "our goal is to honor the artist's original vision. Be cautious with any areas of uncertainty." Madeline nods, jotting down notes. "Of course, we'll proceed carefully." As they wrap up, Olivia feels a flutter of pride. This is where she shines, navigating the delicate dance between past and present, preservation and presentation. It's a responsibility she doesn't take lightly. "Keep me updated on your progress," she tells Madeline. "I want to be informed of any further complications immediately." Olivia returns to her office, mind already shifting to the day's next tasks. She's barely settled at her desk when her phone buzzes again. The name on the screen makes her pause. Gerald Arkin, one of the gallery's most prolific private collectors. "Mr. Arkin," she greets, "what can I do for you?" "Ah, Olivia," his voice booms through the speaker. "Excellent news. That piece I mentioned, the one from the Blackwood estate, it's arrived." Olivia sits up straighter. "Already? I wasn't expecting it for another week." "Well, you know how these things go. The executor was eager to be rid of it. I've arranged for delivery to the gallery this morning. You'll want to see this one yourself, my dear." A mix of excitement and apprehension flutters in Olivia's stomach. The Blackwood painting had been shrouded in mystery, its provenance murky at best, but its rumored artistic value had been too tempting to pass up. "I appreciate the heads up, Mr. Arkin. I'll make the necessary arrangements." She hangs up, immediately dialing her assistant. "Rachel, clear my schedule for the next 2 hours. We have a new acquisition arriving." 30 minutes later, Olivia stands in the gallery's receiving area. The delivery men wheel in a large, carefully wrapped package. Rachel hovers nearby, practically bouncing with enthusiasm. "Ooh, is this the mystery painting?" she asks, dark curls bobbing as she cranes her neck for a better view. Olivia nods, maintaining a professional demeanor despite her own curiosity. Let's get it unpacked and into examination room 3. The painting is larger than Olivia expected, dominating the stark white walls of the examination room. As the last of the protective wrapping falls away, she feels a sudden chill prickle along her skin. The canvas before her depicts a bleak, misty landscape. Gnarled trees loom in the foreground, their branches like grasping fingers against a turbulent sky. In the distance, barely visible through the painted fog, vague human figures seem to drift aimlessly. "Wow," Rachel breathes. "That's intense." Olivia steps closer, drawn in by the unsettling imagery. The brushstrokes are erratic yet purposeful, creating an illusion of depth that seems to pull at her vision. Those shadowy figures, they almost appear to be moving, fading in and out of the mist. She shakes her head, dispelling the notion. "It's profoundly impactful," Olivia says, keeping her voice neutral. "The artist's technique is remarkable." Rachel cocks her head. "Do we know who painted it?" "That's part of the mystery," Olivia replies. "The signature, if there is one, isn't immediately visible. We'll need to do a thorough examination." As she speaks, Olivia can't shake a growing sense of unease. The room suddenly feels colder, the air heavy and oppressive. She resists the urge to shiver, telling herself it's simply the painting's dark subject matter affecting her. "Rachel, can you fetch the UV light? We'll start with a preliminary scan for hidden marks or signatures." Her assistant nods and hurries off. Left alone with the painting, Olivia finds her gaze drawn back to those distant figures. Are they lost souls, wayward travelers? The longer she looks, the more she feels as if they're looking back, their featureless faces somehow accusing. Olivia blinks hard and takes a step back. This is ridiculous, she thinks. It's just a painting, albeit a masterfully executed one. She's letting her imagination run wild. Rachel returns with the equipment and they begin their examination. Olivia loses herself in the familiar routine, meticulously documenting every detail. Yet she can't quite shake the feeling of being watched, as if those painted figures are silently judging her every move. After an hour of fruitless searching, Olivia straightens, rubbing her temples. A dull ache has taken root behind her eyes. "I think that's enough for now," she says. "We'll continue the investigation tomorrow. For now, let's get it hung in Gallery C. It's small enough to showcase the piece without overwhelming visitors." As they supervise the painting's installation, Olivia notices the gallery lights seeming to dim slightly. She frowns, making a mental note to have maintenance check the electrical system. "Is it just me?" Rachel asks, "or does it feel, I don't know, heavier in here?" Olivia is about to dismiss her assistant's concern when a wave of dizziness washes over her. She steadies herself against the wall, blinking rapidly. "Miss Hart, are you all right?" Rachel's voice sounds distant, muffled. "I'm fine," Olivia manages, forcing a smile. "Just a bit of a headache, nothing to worry about." But as they leave the room, Olivia can't help but cast one last glance at the painting. For a split second, she could swear one of the misty figures has shifted, becoming clearer, its blank face turned directly towards her. She hurries out, telling herself it's just a trick of the light. The rest of the day passes in a blur of meetings and paperwork, but Olivia can't shake her unease. Every time she walks past Gallery C, she feels a prickle of awareness, as if something is calling out to her. More than once she catches what seems to be movement from the corner of her eye, only to find the painting unchanged when she looks directly at it. By closing time, Olivia's head is pounding. She says a distracted goodnight to Rachel and Tom, the night security guard, before heading home. Sleep, she thinks. That's all I need. A good night's rest will put everything in perspective. But sleep, when it finally comes, brings no peace. Olivia finds herself walking through a landscape of mist and shadows. Gnarled trees loom on either side, their branches scraping against her skin as she passes. The ground beneath her feet is soft, almost spongy, and each step sinks deeper than the last. A sound reaches her ears, a low, mournful moan carried on the wind. Olivia turns, trying to locate its source, but the mist swirls thicker around her. Panic rises in her throat as she realizes she's lost, with no idea which way leads back to safety. Dark shapes move in the distance, drawing closer. Olivia's heart pounds as she recognizes the vague figures from the painting. But here, within this realm of dreams, they're more substantial. She can make out the hollows where eyes should be, and the gaping maws of their mouths. They reach for her with wispy, insubstantial hands. Olivia tries to run, but her feet are rooted to the ground. She opens her mouth to scream, and jolts awake, a strangled gasp escaping her lips. Olivia sits up, chest heaving, her nightshirt damp with cold sweat. The digital clock on her nightstand blinks 3:47 a.m. in angry red numbers. It takes several long moments for her racing heart to slow. Olivia presses the heels of her hands against her eyes, willing the lingering images of the nightmare to fade. "It was just a dream," she whispers to the empty room, but even as she says it, doubt gnaws at the edges of her mind. The painted landscape had been so vivid, so real. She can still feel the clinging touch of those misty apparitions. Sleep eludes her for the rest of the night. Olivia tosses and turns, her mind replaying every detail of the new acquisition. There must be a rational explanation for her unease, she tells herself. Perhaps the painting's provenance is even murkier than they initially thought. She resolves to dig deeper into its history first thing in the morning. When Olivia arrives at the gallery the next day, dark circles ring her eyes. She clutches her coffee like a lifeline, nodding a terse greeting to Rachel. "Rough night?" her assistant asks, concern evident in her voice. Olivia shares a strained smile. "Nothing a little caffeine won't fix. How are we looking for today?" Rachel rattles off the day's schedule, but Olivia finds her attention drifting. Her gaze keeps sliding towards Gallery C, where she knows the painting waits. Is it her imagination, or does the air feel heavier in that direction? "Miss Hart," Rachel's voice snaps her back to the present. "Are you sure you're all right? You seem distracted." Olivia straightens, squaring her shoulders. "I'm fine, Rachel, just didn't sleep well. Actually, there is something you can help me with. That new piece, I want you to start researching its background. Anything you can find on its previous owners, exhibition history, even local legends. Leave no stone unturned." Rachel's eyebrows shoot up. "Local legends, that's not usually your style." "Consider it due diligence," Olivia says, keeping her tone light. "Mr. Arkin was rather vague about its origins. I want to make sure we have all the facts before we consider displaying it long-term." As Rachel hurries off to begin her research, Olivia readies herself and heads towards Gallery C. She tells herself it's just a routine check, the same as she'd do for any new acquisition. But her steps slow as she approaches the room, that sense of unseen eyes boring into her, growing stronger with each passing moment. She pauses at the threshold, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. The painting looms before her, somehow seeming larger than it had yesterday. The misty landscape appears to shift and swirl, those distant figures even more pronounced in the morning light. Olivia forces herself to approach, to study the work with a professional eye. The technique truly is remarkable, she notes. The artist has captured an incredible sense of depth and movement within the two-dimensional space. But as she leans in closer, a chill runs down her spine. One of the figures, the one that had seemed to move yesterday, is undeniably clearer now. Its featureless face is turned directly towards her, a hint of a mouth just beginning to form. Olivia stumbles back, her heart racing. This is impossible, she thinks. Paintings don't change on their own. A noise from the doorway makes her whirl around. Tom, the security guard, stands there, his weathered face creased with concern. "Everything all right, Miss Hart?" he asks. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Olivia forces a laugh, though it sounds hollow even to her own ears. "Just admiring our new acquisition, Tom. It's quite captivating, isn't it?" Tom steps into the room, his eyes narrowing as he studies the painting. "It's something all right, gives me the creeps if I'm being honest. Kept feeling like I was being watched during my rounds last night." Olivia's breath catches. "You felt it too." The security guard nods slowly. "Can't explain it, really. Just a feeling, you know, like there's something off about this one. But hey, I've seen plenty of weird art come through here. Nothing to get worked up about, right?" Right, Olivia echoes, not quite believing it. She watches as Tom's gaze lingers on the painting, his usual easygoing expression replaced by something more guarded. "Well," he says finally, "I should get back to my rounds. You take care, Miss Hart, and maybe don't spend too much time alone with this one, yeah?" As Tom's footsteps fade away, Olivia turns back to the painting. In the space of their brief conversation, that not-quite face seems to have shifted again. Now, unmistakably, a pair of dark, hollow eyes stare back at her. Olivia backs out of the room, her professional composure crumbling. She longs for answers, and she can't wait any longer. Racing back to her office, she pulls out every file related to the painting's acquisition. There has to be something she missed, some clue to explain what's happening. Hours pass as she pores over documents, cross-referencing dates and names. It's nearly evening when a knock at her door startles her from her investigative haze. Rachel pokes her head in, looking excited. "Miss Hart, I think I found something about the painting." Olivia gestures for her to continue, trying to keep her eagerness in check. Rachel steps fully into the office, clutching a folder. "So I couldn't find much concrete information. It's like this thing just appeared out of nowhere. But I did come across some, well, rumors." "Go on," Olivia prompts, leaning forward. "Apparently every owner of this painting has met with some kind of tragedy. Mysterious disappearances, sudden illnesses, even a few deaths under questionable circumstances. It's all very hush-hush, of course, nothing official but the pattern. It's hard to ignore." Olivia feels the blood drain from her face. "And the artist, did you find anything about them?" Rachel shakes her head. "That's the strangest part. There's no record of who painted it. It's like it just manifested one day." A chill runs through Olivia. She thinks of those shifting figures, the feeling of being watched. Could there be some truth to these dark whispers? "Thank you, Rachel," she says, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You've been very helpful. Why don't you head home for the night? I just have a few things to finish up here." Once her assistant leaves, Olivia sits in silence, her mind reeling. Part of her wants to dismiss it all as superstition and coincidence, but the rational, detail-oriented part of her brain can't ignore the mounting evidence. Something is wrong with that painting, and she needs to find out what. Olivia glances at her watch, surprised to see how late it's gotten. The gallery is empty now, save for the night security staff. She should go home, try to get some rest. But the thought of leaving, of spending another night plagued by nightmares, is unbearable. Before she can talk herself out of it, Olivia stands and heads for Gallery C. The corridors are eerily quiet, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness. As she approaches the room housing the painting, that now familiar sense of dread washes over her. Olivia pauses at the threshold, steeling herself. "This is ridiculous," she mutters. "It's just a painting, an object. It can't hurt you." She flicks on the lights and steps inside. The painting looms before her, its misty landscape somehow more ominous in the harsh fluorescent glare. Olivia forces herself to approach, determined to prove to herself that there's nothing supernatural at work. But as she draws closer, a faint sound reaches her ears, a rhythmic tapping, like fingernails drumming against glass. Olivia freezes, straining to locate the source. It seems to be coming from inside the painting. "Hello?" she calls out, feeling foolish even as she does so. "Is someone there?" The tapping stops abruptly. The silence that follows is deafening, pressing in on Olivia from all sides. She's about to turn away to chalk it up to an overactive imagination when she sees it. Movement within the painting itself. One of the shadowy figures in the background is no longer indistinct. It's taking shape, becoming more solid with each passing second. Olivia watches, paralyzed as it seems to press against the canvas from the inside like a membrane about to burst. "This isn't real," she whispers, backing away. "This can't be happening." The lights overhead begin to flicker wildly. Olivia tears her gaze away from the painting, looking for the exit. But as she turns, an invisible force slams into her, sending her stumbling backward. She hits the ground hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. The temperature in the room plummets, and Olivia can see her own breath misting in the air. The painting looms over her, and now she can clearly see a face forming in the mist, hollow eyes, a mouth stretched in a silent scream. Terror galvanizes her into action. Olivia scrambles to her feet and bolts for the door. She doesn't stop running until she reaches the main lobby, gasping for air. Tom rounds the corner, alarm written across his face. "Miss Hart, what happened? Are you all right?" Olivia opens her mouth to explain, but how can she possibly put into words what she's just experienced? She settles for a shaky nod. I'm fine," she manages. "Just thought I saw something, spooked myself, I suppose." Tom doesn't look convinced, but he doesn't press the issue. "Why don't I walk you to your car? It's late, you should head home and get some rest." The drive home is a blur. Olivia's mind races, trying to make sense of what she's seen. By the time she reaches her apartment, a grim determination has settled over her. Whatever is going on with that painting, she's going to get to the bottom of it. Sleep is out of the question. Olivia spends the night researching, digging into obscure art history forums and occult websites. As the first light of dawn creeps through her windows, she has a plan. Olivia arrives at the gallery earlier than usual, armed with a UV light and a renewed sense of purpose. She marches straight to Gallery C, ignoring the chill that runs down her spine as she enters. "All right," she mutters, approaching the painting. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding." Olivia runs the UV light slowly across the canvas, searching for any hidden marks or signatures. For several tense minutes, nothing appears. Then, just as she's about to give up, something catches her eye. In the bottom right corner, previously invisible spidery letters begin to glow under the UV light. Olivia leans in, her heart pounding as she makes out the name. Victor LaMont. The name means nothing to her, but a quick internet search on her phone sends a chill through her body. Victor LaMont, an obscure artist from the early 20th century, rumored to have ties to occult practices. His works were said to be imbued with dark energy, capable of trapping souls within their painted worlds. Olivia stares at the painting, a mix of fear and fierce curiosity coursing through her. She's no longer dealing with just an artwork. This is something far more dangerous, more otherworldly than she ever imagined. "What have you gotten yourself into, Olivia?" she whispers to herself. As if in response, a cold breeze whispers through the room, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Olivia squares her shoulders, facing the painting head-on. Whatever dark forces are at work here, she's determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Chapter 2. Echoes of LaMont. Olivia stares at the name glowing faintly under the UV light. Victor LaMont. The spidery letters seem to pulse with an otherworldly energy, mocking her attempts at rationality. She straightens, her back protesting after hours hunched over the painting. The first rays of dawn filter through the gallery windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Her phone buzzes, breaking the eerie silence. It's a reminder. The gallery opens in 2 hours. Olivia runs a hand through her disheveled hair, the weight of her discovery settling heavily on her shoulders. She can't simply ignore this, can't pretend it's business as usual, not with the painting's dark history coming to light. With a deep breath, Olivia makes a decision. She'll get to the bottom of this no matter what. The next few hours pass in a blur of frantic research. Olivia barely notices Rachel's arrival, waving off her assistant's concerned queries with vague reassurances. Her focus narrows to a singular purpose, unraveling the mystery of Victor LaMont. Online databases yield scattered mentions, each more disturbing than the last. LaMont's work, described in hushed tones by art critics of the early 1900s, drips with grotesque imagery and unsettling themes. Death, decay, and the occult feature prominently in what little remains of his oeuvre. Olivia's breath catches as she stumbles upon a grainy newspaper clipping from 1923. The headline screams, "Controversial artist vanishes, foul play suspected." The article, heavy with sensationalism, hints at LaMont's involvement in dark rituals and unholy experiments. It mentions a final, unfinished work, a landscape that was rumored to hold terrible power. "It can't be," Olivia whispers, her eyes darting to the painting looming in the corner of her office. But the similarities are undeniable. The misty landscape, the vague figures, it's as if the article is describing the very piece that now hangs in her gallery. A shiver crawled up her back as she considers the implications. If this truly is LaMont's final work, completed just before his mysterious disappearance, what does that mean for the gallery, for her? Olivia pushes back from her desk, overcome by a dizzying rush of sensations. She needs to see the painting again to confirm her suspicions. As she approaches the canvas, something stops her in her tracks. The mist, is it moving? She blinks hard, certain it must be a trick of the light, but no, there's a definite swirling motion in the background, barely perceptible but undeniably there. And the figures, Olivia's heart pounds as she realizes they've shifted. What were once indistinct shapes in the distance now loom closer, their forms more defined against the murky landscape. "This is impossible," she mutters, fumbling for her phone. She snaps several photos, documenting the changes from different angles. The rational part of her mind screams that paintings don't simply change on their own, but the evidence before her eyes is irrefutable. A soft knock at the door makes her jump. Rachel pokes her head in, her usual cheery expression tinged with concern. "Miss Hart, are you all right? You've been in here for hours." Olivia offers a tight, uneasy smile, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm fine, Rachel, just caught up in some research." Rachel's gaze drifts to the painting and a flicker of unease crosses her face. "That thing gives me the creeps," she admits. "I keep feeling like it's watching me." "It's just an unusual piece," Olivia says, not quite believing her own words. "Why don't you take an early lunch? I'll handle things here for a bit." As Rachel leaves, Olivia sinks into her chair, exhaustion washing over her. She needs sleep desperately, but the thought of closing her eyes fills her with dread. The nightmares have been getting worse, more vivid with each passing night. Despite her resistance, Olivia eventually succumbs to fatigue. She drifts off at her desk, only to find herself plunged into a world of swirling mist and grasping shadows. She's running through the landscape of the painting, her feet sinking into spongy ground with each step. Twisted trees loom on either side, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air is thick with an acrid, sulphurous stench that burns her lungs. "Help!" Olivia screams, but her voice is swallowed by the fog. Dark figures materialize around her, their forms flickering in and out of existence. They whisper in a language she doesn't understand, the sound grating against her ears like nails on a chalkboard. The figures press closer, their featureless faces somehow radiating malevolence. Olivia's heart pounds as she realizes she's trapped, surrounded on all sides. She lashes out, her fists passing through the shadowy forms as if they were made of smoke. A force pulls at her, dragging her down into the muck. Olivia fights, clawing at the ground, but it's no use. She's sinking, the shadows closing in, their whispers growing to a deafening roar. Olivia jolts awake with a strangled gasp, nearly falling out of her chair. Her body aches as if she's been in a real fight, muscles protesting as she struggles to orient herself. The line between dream and reality blurs, leaving her questioning what's real and what's merely a product of her exhausted mind. She stumbles to the small bathroom adjacent to her office, splashing cold water on her face. The woman staring back at her in the mirror is a far cry from the polished, professional curator she prides herself on being. Dark circles ring her eyes, and her complexion has taken on a sickly pallor. "Get it together, Olivia," she mutters, gripping the edges of the sink. But even as she tries to shake off the lingering tendrils of the nightmare, a sense of foreboding clings to her like a second skin. The rest of the day passes in a haze of unease. Olivia goes through the motions of her duties, but her mind continually drifts back to the painting and its dark history. She catches herself avoiding Gallery C, taking circuitous routes through the building to steer clear of LaMont's work. As evening approaches, Olivia notices Rachel looking pale and drawn. Her usually bubbly assistant is uncharacteristically quiet, her movements sluggish. "Rachel, are you feeling all right?" Olivia asks, concern overriding her own fatigue. Rachel manages a weak smile. I'm okay, just feeling a bit off. Every time I walk by that new painting, I get this weird dizzy spell. Olivia's stomach clenches. Why don't you head home early, get some rest? As Rachel gathers her things, a commotion near the front desk draws Olivia's attention. Tom, the night security guard, is arguing with his replacement, gesturing animatedly. I'm telling you, something's not right, Tom insists as Olivia approaches. The electrics are going haywire, lights flickering, alarms glitching, and the sounds... What sounds? Olivia interjects, her heart rate picking up. Tom turns to her, his usual stoic expression tinged with unease. Footsteps when there's no one there. Whispers in empty rooms. I know it sounds crazy, but... It doesn't sound crazy, Olivia assures him, her mind racing. We'll look into it. For now, just keep an extra close eye on things, okay? As Tom nods and heads off to start his shift, Olivia retreats to her office. She sinks into her chair, the weight of everything pressing down on her. The painting's influence is spreading, affecting not just her, but the entire gallery. She needs help, someone who can make sense of what's happening. With a slight tremor in her fingers, Olivia types occult art historian into her search bar. Several names pop up, but one catches her eye. Dr. Alan Greer, renowned expert on the intersection of art and the arcane. She hesitates for just a moment before dialing his number. The phone rings twice before a deep, slightly raspy voice answers. Dr. Greer speaking. Olivia takes a deep breath. Dr. Greer, my name is Olivia Hart. I'm the curator at the Hartman Gallery, and I need your help. There's a pause on the other end of the line. When Dr. Greer speaks again, his tone is cautious. What seems to be the problem, Miss Hart? Olivia launches into an explanation, words tumbling out in a rush. She tells him about the painting, about Victor LaMont, about the strange occurrences plaguing the gallery. To his credit, Dr. Greer listens without interruption, only occasionally making soft sounds of acknowledgement. I see, he says when she finally falls silent. Miss Hart, what you're describing is troubling, to say the least. Victor LaMont was not merely an artist. He was a practitioner of very dark, very dangerous rituals. A sharp shudder rippled through Olivia. What kind of rituals? The kind that blur the lines between our world and others, Dr. Greer replies, his voice grim. LaMont believed he could use his art as a conduit for otherworldly forces. There were rumors that he trapped souls within his paintings, using them as a source of power. Olivia's mind reels. But that's impossible. Is it? Dr. Greer challenges. You've seen the painting change, felt its influence. Miss Hart, I cannot stress this enough. You are dealing with forces beyond your comprehension. Lamont's final work could be more dangerous than you realize. What should I do? Olivia asks, hating how small her voice sounds. There's a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. If I were you, I'd walk away, seal off that painting and never look back. But something tells me you're not going to do that. Olivia thinks of Rachel's illness, of Tom's unease, of the nightmares that plague her sleep. I can't just ignore this. People could get hurt. Then be very, very careful, Dr. Greer warns. The deeper you dig, the more you open yourself up to Lamont's influence. And, Miss Hart, if you start to feel like you're losing yourself, like the line between reality and nightmare is blurring, then stop, immediately. Before it's too late. The call ends, leaving Olivia with more questions than answers. She stares at the phone in her hand, Dr. Greer's warning echoing in her mind. Part of her wants to follow his advice, to wall off the painting and pretend none of this ever happened. But as she looks up, her gaze falling on Lamont's work looming in the corner, Olivia knows she can't walk away. Whatever dark force is at work here, she has a responsibility to stop it. With renewed determination, Olivia throws herself back into her research. Hours pass in a blur of occult tomes and obscure art history texts. The sun sets, casting long shadows across her office. She barely notices as the gallery grows quiet, the last of the staff filtering out for the night. A sudden chill in the air pulls Olivia from her studies. She looks up, startled to find the room bathed in darkness. How long has she been sitting here? As she reaches for the lamp on her desk, a sound freezes her in place. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing through the empty gallery. Olivia's chest tightened as her heart hammered. It could be Tom on his rounds, but something tells her it's not. The footsteps draw closer, accompanied now by a faint whispering. The words are indistinct, but the malevolence behind them is unmistakable. She stands on shaky legs, grabbing a heavy art book as an impromptu weapon. The temperature in the room plummets, her breath misting in the air. The whispers grow louder, swirling around her like a twisted wind. And then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stops. The silence that follows is deafening, pressing in on Olivia from all sides. She takes a tentative step towards the door. A violent gust of wind explodes through the room, knocking Olivia off her feet. She hits the ground hard, the breath driven from her lungs. Papers whirl through the air like demented butterflies, and the painting on the wall rattles in its frame. Olivia scrambles to her feet, her eyes locked on LaMont's work. The mist in the painting churns wildly, and the figures are moving. Pressing against the canvas as if trying to break free. One of the shadows detaches itself from the painting, coalescing into a vaguely human shape. It looms over Olivia, radiating a cold so intense it burns. She can feel the malice emanating from it, an almost physical force. Panic grips her as the shadow reaches out. Olivia's body moves on instinct, her hand closing around a metal stand near her desk. She swings wildly, the stand passing through the figure with a sound like tearing silk. The shadow recoils, its form flickering. Emboldened, Olivia presses her attack. She slashes at the entity again and again, each blow sending ripples through its smoky substance. With a final, ear-splitting shriek, the shadow dissolves, pulled back into the painting like water down a drain. Olivia stands there, panting, the metal stand clutched in white-knuckled hands. The chill in the air dissipates, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone. She stares at the painting, her mind struggling to process what just happened. It was real. All of it, the footsteps, the whispers, the attack. The painting isn't just a conduit for some vague supernatural force. It's a prison for something actively malevolent, something that wants out. Olivia sinks to the floor, her legs no longer able to support her. The adrenaline begins to ebb, leaving her shaky and exhausted. But beneath the fear and fatigue, a spark of determination takes hold. She pushed the thing. Back into the painting, she fought it off, which means it can be fought. Olivia's jaw sets, a new resolve hardening within her. LaMont's spirit, or whatever dark force inhabits his work, is growing stronger, but she won't cower before it. She'll find a way to stop this, to end the threat before it can harm anyone else. As she pulls herself to her feet, Olivia's gaze is drawn back to the painting. She freezes, her breath catching in her throat. The landscape has changed again, the mist receding to reveal more of the nightmarish world beyond. And the figures, they're no longer indistinct shapes. The shadows have coalesced, taking on more human-like forms. Their faces, once featureless voids, now bear expressions of agony and terror. They reach out towards the viewer, as if begging for release or warning of some impending doom. But it's the new figure emerging in the center of the painting that sends a chill down Olivia's spine. Taller than the rest, with hollow eyes and a cruel, twisted smile. As she stares, transfixed, the figure seems to look right back at her, its gaze burning with malevolent intelligence. With horrifying clarity, Olivia realizes what she's seeing. The painting isn't just changing, it's transforming. The misty landscape is giving way to a portrait, a nightmarish self-image of the artist himself. Victor LaMont is coming through. Olivia backs away, her mind reeling. The implications are staggering. If LaMont's spirit is gaining enough power to manifest visually in the painting, how long before it can fully break free? And what will happen to the world, to her, if it does? Her hands unsteady, she reaches for her phone and takes several quick photos of the altered painting. I need proof, she whispers to herself, just in case something happens. As she lowers the phone, Olivia's reflection catches her eye in the darkened window. She hardly recognizes the woman staring back at her, pale, disheveled. with a wild look in her eyes, but beneath the fear and exhaustion there's a glimmer of something else. Determination, resolve. "All right, LaMont," she whispers, turning back to face the painting. "You want a fight? You've got one." Chapter 3. The Unseen Eyes. Olivia's eyes burn as she stares at the painting, Lamont's twisted visage sneering back at her. The gallery is quiet, but the silence feels alive, pulsing with malevolent energy. She hasn't slept in days, not since her confrontation with the shadowy figures that emerged from the canvas. A sound behind her makes Olivia flinch. She whirls around, heart pounding, only to find Rachel standing in the doorway. Her assistant looks terrible. Skin sallow, dark circles under her eyes, hair limp and unwashed. "Rachel?" Olivia's voice cracks. "What are you doing here? You should be resting." Rachel sways slightly, her gaze unfocused. I don't feel well, Miss Hart." Her words slur together. "Something's wrong with me, with this place." Olivia takes a step towards her, concern overriding her own exhaustion. "Let's get you sitting down. I'll call a doctor." But as she reaches for Rachel's arm, the younger woman recoils violently. "Don't touch me," she shrieks, eyes wild. "It's inside me. Can't you see it? The shadow. They're everywhere." Rachel's outburst echoes through the gallery. She stumbles backwards, nearly falling. Olivia watches helplessly as her once vibrant assistant dissolves into hysterics. "I can't stay here," Rachel sobs. "I quit. I'm sorry, Miss Hart, but I can't be near that thing anymore." Before Olivia can respond, Rachel turns and flees. The sound of her footsteps fades, leaving behind a silence that feels oppressive. Olivia sinks into a nearby chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. Rachel's abrupt departure feels like a physical blow. She was more than just an assistant. She was a friend, a bright presence that helped balance out the darkness creeping into the gallery. And now she's gone. The realization hits Olivia like a punch to the gut. She's alone, truly alone in this nightmare. As if to underscore her isolation, a chill wind whispers through the gallery. Olivia's skin prickles, goosebumps rising along her arms. She could swear she hears faint laughter carried on the breeze, mocking, cruel. "Stop it," she mutters, pressing the heels of her hands against her eyes. "Get it together, Olivia." But even as she tries to rally herself, doubt gnaws at the edges of her mind. If the painting's influence was strong enough to drive Rachel away, what chance does she have of stopping it? A noise in the hallway snaps Olivia back to reality. Heavy footsteps approach, accompanied by muttered curses. She looks up to see Tom, the night security guard, stalking past her office. His usual neat appearance is disheveled, and there's a wild look in his eyes that sets Olivia on edge. "Tom," she calls out cautiously, "is everything all right?" He whirls to face her, and Olivia has to suppress a gasp. Tom's face is haggard, his skin ashen. But it's his eyes that truly alarm her. They dart back and forth as if searching for some unseen threat. "All right," Tom's laugh is bitter. "Nothing's all right, Miss Hart. This place, it's not safe anymore." Olivia stands slowly, keeping her movements calm and deliberate. "What do you mean, Tom? Has something happened?" "Happened?" he scoffs. "It's always happening. The voices, the shadows, they're everywhere, watching, waiting." He steps closer, lowering his voice to a harsh whisper. "I've seen things, Miss Hart, things that shouldn't be possible. Figures moving in the cameras when the gallery's empty, doors opening and closing on their own, and that painting." Tom shudders. "It's the source. I know it is." Olivia's heart sinks. Tom had been her rock through all of this, a steady presence she could rely on. To see him reduced to this paranoid, rambling state is almost more than she can bear. "Tom, listen to me," she says, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We can figure this out. Maybe you should take some time off, get some rest." "Rest?" Tom's eyes widen. "There's no rest, not with them watching, always watching." He backs away, shaking his head. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, Miss Hart. I quit. Find someone else to guard this cursed place." Before Olivia can stop him, Tom turns and strides towards the exit. The heavy door slams behind him, the sound echoing through the empty gallery like a death knell. Olivia stands there, frozen, as the full weight of her situation crashes down upon her. Rachel gone. Tom gone. She's completely alone, facing a malevolent force she barely understands. The walls of the gallery seem to close in around her. The air grows thick, oppressive, making it hard to breathe. Olivia stumbles back to her office, collapsing into her chair. Her hands shake as she reaches for her phone, scrolling through her contacts. Who can she call? Who would even believe her if she tried to explain? As if in answer to her unspoken question, a name catches her eye. Dr. Alan Greer, the occult historian, the only person who might understand what she's dealing with. Olivia's finger hovers over the call button. Part of her, the rational, skeptical part that still clings to normalcy, urges her to stop, to walk away from all of this before it's too late. But as her gaze drifts to the painting looming in the corner, Olivia knows she's long past the point of no return. She makes the call. Dr. Greer answers on the third ring, his voice gruff with sleep. "Miss Hart, it's the middle of the night. What's wrong?" Olivia takes a shaky breath. "Everything, Dr. Greer, everything's wrong." She pours out the whole story. Rachel's breakdown, Tom's paranoia, the growing sense of malevolence permeating the gallery. By the time she finishes, her voice is hoarse and she feels drained, as if the very act of speaking has sapped what little energy she had left. There's a long pause on the other end of the line. When Dr. Greer finally speaks, his tone is grave. "Miss Hart, I warned you about the dangers of delving too deeply into LaMont's work, but I fear we're past the point of caution now." Olivia's grip on the phone tightens. "What do I do? How do I stop this?" Another pause, longer this time. When Dr. Greer responds, each word feels weighted with significance. "There might be a way. It's dangerous, Miss Hart, incredibly so. But if Lamont's spirit truly is manifesting through the painting, destroying it could sever his connection to our world." Hope flares in Olivia's chest, small and fragile, but hope nonetheless. "How? I'll try anything at this point." "Fire," Dr. Greer says simply. "Lamont feared it in life, used it in his rituals. It might be the key to undoing his work. But Miss Hart, you must understand the risks. If you fail, if Lamont's spirit is strong enough to resist..." He doesn't finish the thought. He doesn't need to. Olivia can feel the unspoken danger hanging in the air between them. "I understand," she says quietly. "Thank you, Dr. Greer." As she ends the call, Olivia feels a strange sense of calm settle over her. The path ahead is clear now, terrifying as it may be. She has a chance, perhaps her only chance, to end this nightmare once and for all. The next few hours pass in a blur of preparation. Olivia moves through the gallery like a ghost, gathering supplies, a metal trash can, lighter fluid, matches. She finds an old fireplace poker in a storage closet, its metal cool and reassuring in her hand. As dawn breaks, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Olivia stands before Lamont's canvas. The misty landscape seems to writhe beneath her gaze, the shadowy figures more distinct than ever. Lamont's face leers at her from the center, his hollow eyes burning with malevolent glee. Olivia's hands shake as she uncaps the lighter fluid. "This ends now," she whispers, voice raw with determination. She douses the canvas liberally, the acrid smell of chemicals filling the air. Olivia takes a step back, match in hand. For a moment, she hesitates. Is she really going to do this? Destroy a priceless work of art? But as she looks at the painting, really looks at it, Olivia knows it's no longer art. It's a prison, a portal, a thing of nightmares given form. And she has to stop it. She strikes the match. The flame sputters to life, tiny and fragile. Olivia's heart pounds as she moves to touch it to the canvas, and then impossibly the flame goes out. Olivia blinks, confused. She strikes another match and another. Each time the flame dies the moment it nears the painting. A chill runs down her spine as understanding dawns. The painting is resisting, protecting itself. Frustration and fear war within her. Olivia grabs the fireplace poker, ready to smash the canvas if she has to. But as she raises the metal rod, movement catches her eye. The figures in the painting, they're moving. No longer content to lurk in the misty background, They press against the canvas from within. The surface bulges outward, like something trying to claw its way free. Olivia stumbles backward, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. This can't be happening. It's impossible. But before her eyes, shadowy forms begin to seep out of the painting. They coalesce into vaguely human shapes, their edges blurred and shifting. The temperature in the room plummets, frost forming on the windows despite the warm spring day outside. The shadow figures reach for her with insubstantial hands. Their touch is ice-cold, sending jolts of pain through Olivia's body. She cries out, swinging the fireplace poker wildly. To her shock, the metal connects with something solid. The nearest shadow creature recoils, its form rippling like smoke. Emboldened, Olivia presses her attack. She slashes and stabs at the entities, each blow sending them back a little further. But there are so many of them. For every shadow she repels, 2 more seem to take its place. They pull at her clothes, her hair, trying to drag her towards the painting. Olivia fights with every ounce of strength she has left, but she's losing ground. Her back hits the wall, the shadow creatures press in, their whispers filling her head. Olivia can feel her consciousness slipping, darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision. This is it, she thinks. I've failed. But as her grip on the poker begins to loosen, something inside Olivia rebels. No, she won't go down without a fight. With a primal scream of defiance, she surges forward. The poker becomes an extension of her arm as she swings it in wide, desperate arcs. The shadow creatures retreat, driven back by her fury. Olivia doesn't stop until she reaches the painting. She slams the poker into the canvas again and again, tearing holes in the fabric. The figures within writhe and contort, their silent screams almost audible. And then, as suddenly as it began, it's over. The shadow creatures dissipate like mist in sunlight, pulled back into the painting. Olivia collapses to her knees, gasping for air. She looks up at the canvas, expecting to see the damage she inflicted. But to her horror, the painting is regenerating before her eyes. The tears in the canvas knit themselves back together. The lighter fluid evaporates, leaving the surface pristine. Worse, the figures within the painting are clearer than ever. LaMont's face dominates the center now, his cruel smile more lifelike with each passing second. The other figures cluster around him, no longer indistinct shadows, but fully formed apparitions. Their faces are twisted in expressions of agony and rage. Olivia's mind reels as she tries to process what she's seeing. The painting isn't just haunted or cursed, it's alive in some fundamental, terrifying way. As she stares transfixed, a half-forgotten conversation with Dr. Greer surfaces in her memory. Something about LaMont's obsession with immortality, his belief that he could cheat death through his art. With trembling hands, Olivia pulls out her phone. She scrolls through her notes from their previous conversations, searching for that elusive piece of information, and then she sees it, a theory Dr. Greer had mentioned in passing, something he'd dismissed as too outlandish to be true. But as Olivia reads the words, a chill settles in her bones. It fits. God help her, it all fits. The souls trapped in the painting aren't LaMont's victims. They're pieces of LaMont himself, fragments of his consciousness, his very essence, split and contained within the canvas. The awful realization slammed into her, making her stagger under its weight. If she had succeeded in destroying the painting, she wouldn't have banished LaMont's spirit. She would have released it, released them into the world. Olivia's legs give out and she sinks to the floor. The painting looms above her, LaMont's eyes seeming to follow her every movement. She can almost hear his laughter, mocking her foolish attempt to destroy him. What has she done? And more importantly, what can she possibly do now? As the first rays of sunlight creep through the gallery windows, Olivia Hart sits alone on the cold floor. The painting that was meant to be her crowning acquisition has become her prison, her torment, and she has no idea how to escape. Chapter 4. The Final Stroke. Olivia stares at the painting, her mind reeling from the horrifying revelation. The faces that once seemed trapped and tormented now leer at her with malicious glee. Victor LaMont's visage dominates the canvas, his eyes boring into her with an intensity that makes her skin crawl. She pushes herself to her feet, legs trembling beneath her. The gallery feels different now, oppressive, hostile. The air is thick and stagnant, as if the very atmosphere is decaying around her. Olivia stumbles to her office, collapsing into her chair. Her reflection in the computer screen startles her. Sunken eyes, sallow skin, hair limp and unkempt. When was the last time she slept? 8? The days have blurred together in a haze of fear and exhaustion. A loud crack echoes through the gallery. Olivia flinches, her heart racing. She forces herself to stand, to investigate. In the main exhibition hall, a large mirror has split down the middle, the fracture spreading like a spiderweb across its surface. As Olivia watches, another crack forms in a nearby window. The sound of peeling paint draws her attention to the walls, where large strips are curling away as if trying to escape. "No," Olivia whispers, her voice hoarse. "This can't be happening." But it is. The gallery, her sanctuary, her life's work is falling apart around her, and she knows with a sickening certainty that it's all because of the painting. Because of LaMont. As if summoned by her thoughts, a cold laugh echoes through the room. Olivia whirls around, searching for the source. Her eyes land on the painting and her blood runs cold. LaMont's figure has shifted. No longer content to remain in the background, he now dominates the foreground. His face is fully formed, every detail rendered with horrifying clarity. And his eyes, God, his eyes seem to follow her, filled with cruel amusement. "Poor foolish Olivia," LaMont's voice slithers into her mind. "Did you really think you could stop me?" Olivia backs away, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. This isn't possible. Paintings don't talk, they don't move, they don't destroy everything around them. But Lamont's laughter only grows louder. "Oh, but I'm so much more than just a painting, my dear. I am art given life, power made manifest, and you're nothing but a canvas for me to paint my will upon." The shadows in the painting writhe and twist, reaching out towards the frame. Olivia watches in horror as tendrils of darkness seep from the canvas, creeping along the wall like living ink. "Stop," she croaks, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, just stop." Lamont's grin widens, revealing teeth that seem too sharp, too numerous. "Stop! But we've only just begun, Olivia. You opened the door, you let me in. And now I'll never leave." The shadows continue to spread, devouring the light around them. Olivia feels a pressure building in her head, Lamont's presence invading her thoughts. She presses her palms against her temples, trying to block him out. "Get out of my head," she screams, the sound tearing from her throat. But Lamont's voice only grows stronger. "Your head, your gallery, your world, they're mine now, Olivia. All mine." Olivia collapses to her knees, overwhelmed by the assault on her senses. The gallery continues to deteriorate around her, glass shattering, wood splintering, metal warping. It's as if the building itself is being consumed by Lamont's malevolent presence. Through the haze of pain and fear, a small part of Olivia's mind clings to rationality. There has to be a way to stop this. There has to be something she missed. With trembling hands, she pulls out her phone. She scrolls through her notes frantically, searching for any scrap of information that might help. Her vision blurs. Lamont's laughter, a constant, maddening presence in her mind. And then, there. A half-remembered conversation with Dr. Greer, something about Lamont's techniques, his obsession with symbols and rituals. Olivia squints at the screen, forcing her eyes to focus. Lamont's work, bound by specific symbols, cutting through. The words swim before her, but their meaning slowly coalesces in her mind. A symbol, hidden within the painting itself, the key to unraveling Lamont's power. Olivia forces herself to her feet, swaying as a wave of dizziness washes over her. She stumbles towards the painting, ignoring the way the shadows seem to reach for her, trying to hold her back. "What are you doing?" Lamont's voice has lost some of its smug confidence, replaced by a note of uncertainty. Olivia doesn't respond. She leans in close to the canvas, her eyes scanning every inch. The brushstrokes seem to shift beneath her gaze, the figures in the painting moving to obscure different areas. "Stop that," LaMont snarls. "You're only prolonging the inevitable." But Olivia tunes him out, focusing all her attention on the task at hand. She moves methodically, starting from the top left corner and working her way across and down. The symbol has to be here somewhere. Minutes pass, though they feel like hours. Olivia's vision swims, exhaustion and Lamont's influence taking their toll, but she presses on, refusing to give up. And then, there, in the bottom right corner, almost invisible against the dark background, a series of lines and curves woven so subtly into the painting that she would have missed it if she hadn't known to look. "No!" Lamont's roar shakes the gallery, sending debris raining down from the ceiling. "Get away from there!" Olivia stumbles back, her heart pounding. She's found it. Now she just needs... Her mind paused for a second. Her eyes land on the gallery's restoration kit, knocked to the floor in the chaos. A scalpel glints among the scattered tools. Olivia lunges for it, her fingers closing around the handle just as a tendril of shadow wraps around her ankle. She kicks free, scrambling to her feet. "I won't let you do this," LaMont hisses. His face in the painting has contorted into a mask of fury. "I've waited too long, sacrificed too much." Olivia grits her teeth, steeling herself against the assault of his voice in her head. "This ends now, LaMont." She approaches the painting, scalpel held before her like a shield. The air grows colder with each step, shadows writhing at the edges of her vision. Lamont's fury is a physical presence, pushing against her. But Olivia doesn't falter. She's tired of being afraid and tired of feeling powerless. With a steadying breath, she places the scalpel against the canvas. Lamont's scream of rage fills the gallery, but Olivia blocks it out. She focuses solely on the symbol, tracing its lines with the blade. The moment the scalpel pierces the canvas, something changes. A shockwave of energy pulses through the room, knocking Olivia off her feet. She hits the ground hard, the breath driven from her lungs. For a moment, everything is still. Then a sound unlike anything Olivia has ever heard tears through the gallery. It's as if the painting itself is screaming. Olivia pushes herself up, wincing at the pain in her ribs. Her eyes widen as she takes in the scene before her. The painting is unraveling. There's no other word for it. The canvas seems to be dissolving, threads of color and shadow dissipating into the air. Lamont's face, once so domineering, twists in agony as it begins to fade. "No!" His voice is weaker now, desperate. "You can't do this. I am eternal. I am—" But whatever he is, Olivia doesn't hear it. Lamont's words are swallowed up as the painting continues to disintegrate. The shadows that had spread throughout the gallery begin to recede, pulled back towards the dissolving canvas, as if by some unseen force. Olivia watches, transfixed, as the last remnants of the painting vanish. The oppressive atmosphere that has hung over the gallery for weeks lifts, leaving behind a silence that feels almost holy in its peace. She lets out a shaky breath, scarcely able to believe it's over. The scalpel slips from her fingers, clattering to the floor. As the adrenaline fades, exhaustion crashes over Olivia in waves. She sinks to her knees, her body trembling with relief and residual fear. Tears she didn't know she was holding back begin to fall, leaving trails through the dust on her cheeks. Time passes. Olivia isn't sure how much. When she finally looks up, she's startled to see sunlight streaming through the windows. Morning has come, chasing away the last of the shadows. Olivia stands on shaky legs, taking in the state of the gallery. The damage from Lamont's influence is evident. Cracked mirrors, peeling paint, shattered glass. But even as she watches, something remarkable happens. The cracks in the mirrors begin to seal themselves, as if time is running in reverse. The strips of paint flutter back into place, adhering seamlessly to the walls. Shards of glass rise from the floor, fitting back together like puzzle pieces. Within minutes, the gallery looks exactly as it did before Lamont's painting ever darkened its walls. Olivia blinks, wondering if she's hallucinating from lack of sleep. But no, the restoration is real. It's as if the gallery itself is healing, shrugging off the nightmare of the past weeks. A laugh bubbles up from Olivia's chest, quiet at first, then growing louder. It's not entirely sane, tinged with hysteria and bone-deep relief. but it feels good, cleansing. When the laughter subsides, Olivia is left feeling lighter. The weight that has pressed down on her for so long has lifted. She takes a deep breath, reveling in the simple pleasure of air that doesn't taste of dust and decay. She makes her way to her office, each step feeling more grounded than the last. Her reflection in the computer screen is still a mess. She'll need more than a magical gallery restoration to fix that. But her eyes are clear, alert. Olivia begins to gather her things, ready to leave this place and get some much-needed rest. As she shrugs on her coat, a glint of metal catches her eye. The scalpel lies on her desk, innocuous now that its task is complete. Olivia picks it up, turning it over in her hands. Such a small thing to have made such a big difference. She's about to put it back in the restoration kit when movement in her peripheral vision makes her freeze. Slowly, hardly daring to breathe, Olivia turns towards the wall where LaMont's painting once hung. For a moment she sees nothing, but as she steps closer, her heart begins to race. There, faint but unmistakable, is the outline of the painting, a ghostly remnant, barely visible unless you know to look for it. "No," Olivia whispers, "it can't be." But even as denial forms on her lips, she feels it, a presence, faint, but growing stronger with each passing second. Panic claws at her throat. Has it all been for nothing? Is LaMont still here, biding his time, waiting to strike again? Olivia's hand clenches around the scalpel. She won't let that happen. She can't. But as she raises the blade, ready to attack the wall itself if she has to, something in her pocket crinkles. Olivia reaches in, her fingers closing around a small scrap of canvas. She pulls it out, staring at it in disbelief. It must have torn off during the final confrontation, caught in the fabric of her clothes. The piece is tiny, no larger than a postage stamp, but as Olivia holds it, she can feel the latent power thrumming within it. LaMont's influence, compressed but not destroyed. For a long moment, Olivia stands frozen, the canvas scrap in one hand and the scalpel in the other. The choice before her is clear. Destroy this final piece and end LaMont's threat once and for all, or what? Keep it? Study it? Try to understand the power that nearly destroyed her? The temptation is there. Olivia can't deny it. The curator in her, the scholar, wants to preserve this fragment of supernatural art, to learn from it. But as she stares at the canvas scrap, Olivia sees flashes of the past weeks. Rachel's terrified face as she quit, Tom's paranoid ramblings, the feeling of LaMont invading her mind, tainting everything with his malevolence. No, some knowledge isn't worth the cost, she concludes silently in her head. With a decisive motion, Olivia crosses to the trash bin. She holds the canvas scrap over it, a smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Not this time, LaMont," she murmurs. She lets go. The scrap flutters into the bin, indistinguishable from the other scraps of paper and detritus. As Olivia turns to leave, a faint sound reaches her ears. The whisper of bristles against canvas, barely audible but unmistakable to someone who has spent their life surrounded by art. She pauses, hand on the doorknob. For a moment, doubt creeps in. Has she really won? Or is this just another trick, another layer of LaMont's deception? But as Olivia listens, she realizes the sound isn't menacing. It's not the harbinger of some new horror. It's just a sound, a reminder of the power of art, both to create and destroy. Olivia straightens her shoulders, a small smile playing across her lips. Let the sound remain. Let it serve as a reminder of what she's overcome, of the strength she didn't know she possessed. She steps out of the gallery, closing the door firmly behind her. The morning sun warms her face, chasing away the last of the chill that has clung to her for so long. Olivia takes a deep breath, savoring the crisp autumn air. For the first time in weeks, she feels truly awake, alive. There will be challenges ahead, she knows, explanations to give, a gallery to run, a life to rebuild. But for now, in this moment, Olivia allows herself to simply be. She survived the darkest night of her life, and if Victor LaMont taught her anything, it's that every shadow, no matter how deep, can be overcome by those with the courage to face it. Olivia steps forward, leaving the echo of paintbrushes behind. Whatever canvas life presents next, she's ready to paint her own masterpiece.